Okay. So the first question that I start asking everybody, and again, you can feel free to speak as freely as you like. You can curse. You can say something that might be controversial. Whatever you feel is honest, say that.
Okay.
And I encourage you also to speak as much as you would like. We don't have like your limit. I want you to just get out your honest feelings about the subjects. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So we'll start off talking about when do you feel you're most powerful?
Wow. That's a hard one off the bat.
Mm,
Um, wow. Okay, so I think in a couple different areas. I'm not going to go artistic first. I'm going to go just regular person. So
okay.
it's been interesting. So a lot of my work, so I've been focused on activism and being an advocate, and more so for individuals who either have a disability, um, young people in particular, or people who have been chronically underemployed or unemployed. And so, like
Mm,
after the Freddie Gray riot, when we really saw Baltimore burning, and really because of youth who were saying, "Hey, we're tired of the treatment, we're tired of lack of," and you could fill in the blank. And so, there was a lot of work that I ended up doing, working in a nonprofit space to try to help provide opportunities for people to get connected. And a lot of times to employers who are right here in our backyard, so like your Johns Hopkins, your Towson, Notre Dame, I mean, all the eds and meds is what we call them, anchor institutions. University of Maryland, where a lot of people's probably parents or aunts, uncles, whatever, work there. Not all the time in the jobs that are above a certain level. So,
yeah.
uniformed out and whatnot. But needless to say, apply to these type of institutions because there is some type of stability. If for whatever reason couldn't get their foot in the door. And so because we had the relationships with them because of a grant, then we were able to kind of touch base with HR people and hiring managers and really advocate for people to come in. And so for me, like being able to be a connector, whether it be by way of working in the community. Like right now, I'm doing like the retail work right now. I decided to resign from my job, and I'm literally working like at Ross retail wise. I'm doing some
Mm,
stuff at my daughter's school after school, and so I get a chance to meet a lot of people.
yeah.
And so in that space, you'd be surprised at who you meet, who comes to the counter,
A hundred
who might have a
percent.
whole conversation, and you find yourself still in a position, at least for me, in a position of being a connector. And so the connector could be an opportunity. The connector can just be providing like words of encouragement, or just, "Hey, girl, I look at that item you got. That is bad."
Hmm.
People sometimes need even that type of conversation because a lot of times we wear these masks and we don't know how to advocate for one another or on behalf of. So that's I feel always powerful when I'm able to like bring a smile to somebody's face or do something using my talent, my gifts to be able to open the door for somebody else.
Hmm.
Fast forward as an artist, I kind of take that same voice in how I write the lyrics to my songs. So some of the songs that are written really have a social impact. And like in the words of Nina Simone, like using the platform to be able to talk about something greater than just myself,
Yeah.
using the voice to try to connect people, to bring awareness to something. We can all dance and have a great time, but sometimes it's important to make people aware because especially now, we're so caught up in this device that we kind of fail to kind of see other things. But, and being on that stage, even if I'm not singing something that's quote unquote about an important societal theme, to know that whatever I deliver on that stage, from the energy of how I sing it, to the movement, the band, the music, etc., and to have people come up to me after the show and say, "Wow, I was feeling a certain way today." But when I came in, hearing that song or seeing you or feeling what you put out on that stage caused me to feel something different, caused me to not give up hope, caused me to want to call a girlfriend who I knew was almost suicidal. But the words in that song I wanted her to hear it through the phone. Oh, I saw you on across I guess a Zoom, but whatever I saw there, I got in my clothes, put on my shoes, and came down to the auto bar to buy a ticket and see you live. So the power of being in that space and to be able to draw whatever it is to provide again the connection is also where I feel powerful in the entertainment space.
Nice. When you were talking about preparing for, when you do feel you're most powerful and you're preparing to go into those spaces, is there a process or kind of like something that you put into place to help you get to those spaces when you are like preparing to go into the world, even if it's like an article of clothing or a certain way that you get dressed that day that
All
really
right.
puts you like on the path to like taking it on, you know what I mean?
Never thought about that per se. I mean, it's always been a juggle to be in a career space. I'm out and then switch out of that mode and to be in artist mode, and so that's part of the reason why I said okay, over this past year and a half I kind of stepped out so I can be fully integrated into the art space, because it really is hard to kind of make the transition. It's like Superman, Clark Kent.
Oh yeah,
But I don't think that there's something that I actually intentionally put on or whatnot, versus just wanting to show up as authentically as I can. I mean, when I started out, and for many years, I sang as a lead front woman of a rock and a ska band called the Upstarters. And so, coming from a world where I used to sing a little bit more R&B and then stepping into a more alternative music scene, there was the ability to be more free in how I showed up on stage. I think a lot of times in the R&B space, there is always the expectation you can be glammed out, the high heel shoes on, whatever. And so when you go into the alternative spaces, the audiences aren't really looking. They don't care about all that fanfare. What they really care about is having a great time and being able to make the connection. So eventually I was able to learn how to just show up. I be intentional on my show up, but
right.
that show up could be, jeans and a cool t-shirt and some sneakers. I like to always, when I can, involve into my wardrobe some type of shirt that has like a message on it. It can be something funny, something outrageous, something bold, and try to show up to feel as rock star-ish as I possibly can. Also from the perspective that sometimes people don't assume Black women to be able to step into these alternative music spaces, especially rock, and so, wanting to show up to let people know like, hey, I'm going to give you that little bit of glam that's part of our culture, but I'm also going to do it in a way that's authentic to me. And so outside of that, it's just connecting by way of the music and the people. I think that I am not the type of artist that needs to like be drunk or be high or have drank a lot to be able to get on the stage and perform. So I really come on motivated to just use whatever is the energy that's buzzing around me, from the audience to obviously the music, the band, if I'm with a band, to kind of deliver in a way that kind of will have people connect to it. If that answers your question.
It does. Do you feel when you're performing like by yourself or with a band that the impact is different?
Oh hell yeah! It's been interesting because so I've been with Upstarters for many years, over at least over a decade, and so last year made the decision. Okay, I'm going to start working on my third solo project, which still has elements of rock and pop and dance, but there's other like Afrobeat involved in it. There's a little bit of a more like Afro pop and whatnot, and so didn't want to deal with the band because our band is 7-piece band. We have the horn section, we have, and so it's a lot when you're thinking about rehearsals and making sure musicians can eat. Many times doing shows where you're not going to get paid, but as long as your band can at least take home something, then you've done your job. And so stepping into this new body of work is like, okay, man, what's the most cost effective way? What's the easiest way to travel? Is it a DJ and just a guitarist? Is it a bass player? Is it one singer? So I've been using really more so performance tracks, and been doing a lot of open mic type of vibes, partly because again the audience that I perform from, by being alternative, although it's diverse, it is really more so heavily on the Caucasian white side than it is Black. So I think I found myself a little bit anxious to sing in front of a Black audience because sometimes there's a different expectation, as I already discussed, not only just from the dress, but clothing wise, sometimes even lyric wise, etc. So It's been interesting being in these spaces now, being the only person on stage, because there's nothing like having 7 people. Every time that music plays, even though you might practice it, the chords, it might always come out different because you have somebody who's actually playing it live versus a track
Right.
that's kind of steady. So I can't say that I like it a lot to be on the stage by myself. I really don't.
Right.
But it's been interesting to connect with myself in certain ways to say, okay, now how do I move an audience with just me?
Right.
Because if I can't move them with just me, then what's the band gonna do?
Right.
So it's been an interesting case study.
Uh,
It's been good, but it's been interesting too.
yeah, I know. As a I've hosted open mics. I actually used to host my own open mic for like 4 years, and it is such
Okay.
a like different perspective because when I first started the open mic, I had a house band. So I
Okay.
even when I'm up there, like telling little jokes or something, I had backing. I had a little something going on behind me, and it just painted a full picture for people compared to like the nights when we didn't have a band. It was kind of like, okay, it's a little more quiet.
Right, right. Like what we do next.
Right, right. We have to be very intentional about every moment because there's nothing to kind of fill the space. So
Right.
I understand that completely. So let's talk about on the flip side of that when you feel your least powerful.
Wow. When do I feel my least powerful? Um, just saying. So I think it's so you mentioned about like how it is to perform by yourself versus the band, and so I mentioned to you like having a little bit of that anxiousness and being in front of different audiences and trying to like figure out like what is my voice. And so when you've been singing the same songs for many years and you kind of really know how it goes, whether you have a voice that night or you don't, whether the band is hot or they're not, you kind of know what to expect and how to work with any situation.
Right.
When you start recording new material, for many artists, the process of the sound that you get from inside the recording booth is something completely different when you take it out live.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously a very controlled environment, studio wise, very non-controlled by way of live mic. And so I think for me, especially in trying to learn these new body of songs, I was definitely very nervous, very insecure. I felt as though that vocally it demanded just a different type of not only the sound but a different type of precision. I knew that again with because of the type of music we were doing that the judgment on it would be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And because again I'm pushing this music to different audiences, not one that I kind of was very familiar with, wasn't sure what was going to be the remarks
Mm-hmm.
from that. Some of the first song that was pushed out was an abortion rights song. So of all songs to step out with, that's the one that could actually make or break because of how because of that particular topic. That people have lots of different views on that from a lot of different ways, and so it's like, oh, I'm stepping out. So I was very. I think I was that was my most low moment in trying to figure out, okay, how do I step out here and create for myself this alter personality, not the Kanika that's been comfortable singing with the upstarters for all these years, but the new Kanika that's going to take on this new body of work and be able to do it to the level that I did it in the studio. And I think that too is a whole other thing sometimes artists don't talk about. It's like, you hear yourself back, you're like, oh my God, it's so perfect. You have so many perfect things that can happen from the pitch correction to you name it. And now when you have to take off that mask and do it for real, you're either going to stand up to how you sound so that people say, oh, she can sing and I feel it the same way, or yo, she sucks. And because now we're in this ultra technology space, if somebody records it and it's not hot and it's up, that can make it or break it for you. So there's been definitely low moments of trying to get over just the anxiousness of it. And I think it wasn't until maybe like the last show, the center stage was actually a great experience. I kind of flipped into like a one woman show,
Mm-hmm.
but being on that stage being in an element where everything was so professional. The expectation was like, you better come in and show up. And so I think, having many months practicing in open mics to kind of just feel more connected to these songs, I think stepping in that stage helped me to kind of break through some mental spaces to say, okay, Kanika, you've gotten here because you're the same artist that you were then that you are right now. And you just have to come here and sing your truth. Like, the only thing that you can do is to do it. Like, people are not going to come expecting anything more than you leaving on the stage and like letting go of like the pretentiousness, or like my vocal teacher would say, you're trying to be too perfect. Letting go of the perfectness of, trying to deliver it and just feel it more. And so I think that's the other part of my most low is like, understanding how to take out the perfection of things and start to say, okay, the more that I feel it, the more perfect I'll be, because the more people will get it. And once they get it, then it becomes undeniable.
If you could kind of like paint a picture of what an ideal like stage situation would look like the perfect show, if you will, or the best night, what does that look like?
That's a hard one. So I think the if it's a perfect show, is when you have awesome sound. For as a female singer in particular, especially when you're singing with a live band, a lot of times guys don't know how to mic up our voices right, so that from the EQ aspect that we can be heard the right way through a large space. And I've had maybe a show or two where like the mic was right, the monitors you could hear just perfect without having an inner ear on. And so the engineers just knew how to capture the sound. But the other part of that is the audience being locked in step. Now, there's two parts of that. Obviously, you have to come and bring that, because a lot of audiences will come and just stand there, hands folded, until you make them want to move. But once you kind of get them going and you have people who are like dancing and jumping around. Actually, the Upstarters, we had done a show at Ram's Head. And I asked the audience to sing along. We actually ended up recording this particular song and included it in our video. And to hear the choruses of voices, men and women, because I separated them out to say, sing along with me, and hearing them sing along back, that was a perfect experience. I mean, any artist would love to always see that, because again, we're not known. People don't know the body of work, but they were so lock and step from, John, I'm in an interview right now, from the beginning to where we took them, that when it came time to say, hey, sing with us, they were on point. And so that's what you want as an entertainer.
Yeah.
And then afterwards that you have that long line of people buying merch because they want to take home a piece of you, and then you hear from people say like, oh, I drove. There's one guy said he drove all the way from Boston because he happened to see a video online, and I'm like, oh wow, that's motivation.
Yeah.
But he came out and he was like, man, like, what I saw here is 10 times better than what I even saw in the video, and I'm happy to make the trip. And so then that you as an artist and perfectionist and all did your mission to connect with people in a certain way. And so those are always the most awesome shows, and people are just jamming and having fun. And then the band too, like nobody's like caring about anything else. Everybody's just like in their own, like everybody's locked in.
Yeah.
And then when you start to ride in that locked in space, the energy is like so high.
It's like one vibration.
Yeah, it's one vibration. Yeah. So those are always the best shows. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you could, and this could be a piece of advice to your former self, or a piece of advice to someone else who is dealing with those feelings of like being arrested and not being able to really progress past where they might be right now, what would you express to them?
Trust the process. And I've had to kind of learn that, this year, I think a lot of us are always anxious to get to the next level, and we don't even understand how to get there. And so, part of me and stepping out of like a crazy 9 to 5 was to be able to quiet myself down enough where I could just be, not 100% still, but still in the sense of not having to answer to anything else but just myself.
Right.
And then that stillness, starting to be able to see things for what it is. And so then you start to see like, oh, you meet this one person, and that one person may have a piece, could be a small piece, a medium-sized piece, a large piece. that falls into the puzzle, and then from putting in that one piece, then you start to get like another clue, kind of like how people say the universe never makes mistakes. And
Yeah.
I had to learn that, in part, and even me being off, I had to actually do work in that whole spiritual space as well too, to kind of say, okay, wow, what do I need to say, start to say to myself, to encourage myself, pull myself out of these spaces where, I'm thinking gloom or doom, or I'm thinking it's never going to happen, or I'm nervous or anxious, and let me flip that around by speaking power to myself. Let me start to pull in, the visions of what I can see happening, in the near future, like tomorrow, and start to call those things out. And I swear that once I started to lock in that, and this is me growing up in the church, so like, it's in addition to just, prayer, and some of that is the same thing. It's just depending on how you look at it, but learning how to tap into it, being still enough to tap into it. And I started to see, okay, wow, as anxious as I might be, I must trust the process. And
Right.
as I trust it, I will start to meet the things, or stumble across the opportunity, stumble across the application to apply for center stage, or whatever it is that's going to get me prepared for the next level.
Right.
And then in that, I think, what I still need to get better at this is just in the moments of waiting to continue to practice the craft. So,
Mm.
okay, am I still coming up to, sing the songs and practice? I don't have a show next week. With the band, it was easy. We always practiced every single Thursday. But me by myself, if I don't motivate me, then I realize when the opportunity comes, I didn't take the time to prepare for it. So now, although I was in position, alignment to get the next thing, I wasn't prepared for the opportunity.
Right.
So it's trusting the process, continuing to perfect the craft. And I think the other part that I'm still also learning is just having fun with it, not taking it so serious. We all take it serious because we're so passionate about it. I'm so passionate about it. But I don't want to miss the important small things, but yet large things in the journey, for just being so like, because I know what comes. We
Okay.
all know when it gets to be like this, the expectation of us is going to be even more so. And so we don't take time to kind of have fun where it's not as critical. Once we get to Hollywood status, gosh, it's like
Yeah.
jumping off the Key Bridge. So I'm really trying to learn how to enjoy that and have fun with the music, fun with the writing process, fun with the fuck ups. you
Yeah.
know,
All you can. You know what I mean?
while it's not as critical. You get to a certain level, like one wrong move is like can topple everything.
For
You
sure.
know.
For sure. That's very inspirational. So yeah, I appreciate you taking this time to talk to me this evening. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy it's part of your work. And I found my coat. So
Okay.
I'm gonna hit you up on the Wednesday. I will, and so you can see my coat
Yeah.
at two.
Just send me a picture of it. You know what I mean? We can arrange a time to meet up or
All
whatever.
right,
Make it happen.
all right, sounds good.
For sure. So
Sounds
I'll
good.
be in touch and I'll be sending you progress pics and everything. And when we get like the stream for the artist talk, I'll make sure you get that too so you can see it in its full glory, the whole exhibition together.
Oh, that's awesome. When do you think it's going to debut?
So I go down to Miami on the 5th of December.
Okay.
Set up the exhibition on the 6th. The opening is the 7th. So it'll
Oh,
be
okay.
live in the museum from the 7th to the 10th. And then I come back with everything. So
Seventh. Okay. You said this. Well, give me the date again.
it's the December 7th is the day that we'll be doing like the artist talk, which should be, like I said, should be able to stream it. If not, I'll make sure it's captured that people can see it.
Okay.
So December 7th, I'll get like a more firm time on that a little closer to date. And then the exhibition will live in the museum from the 7th to the 9th. And then after that, I'll be bringing everything back with me if it doesn't sell while it's down there. Because, of course, everything will be for sale for people
Right.
there. Yeah.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I have a girlfriend who lives in Miami, so I definitely will let her know that she can.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
in the Yeah, she's a lawyer by trade, but she ended up opening up like a hair salon to focus on curly type hair. So all the different nationalities that are there. And but now she created product now, so product is like selling on home shopping clubs and stuff like
Oh,
that. But I'll just say she's in the artistic space, so I like to share that with her so she can get out the word to some people in her
oh, for sure.
community who might be definitely interested in coming out and supporting something like that.
Yeah. As I get, like I said, as I get the, I actually have a meeting with, I hate to use like the term like my handler, but the guy who's doing all the like organization. We have our last meeting tomorrow before I get down there. So I'll make sure that I nail in like all that information so I can get it to you to make sure, you're able to tell your friends and everything so they can come and see it.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome stuff.
All
Great.
right. Well, you have a great rest of your evening. Happy
You as
holidays.
well. You as well. And then if you ever get a chance, Lamundo, I'm on the board of Lamundo. So Lamundo is an arts. I don't know if you've heard of Lamundo. They're off of Howard Street, 406 Howard Street. They're across the street or diagonal to the multicultural African American Multicultural Center. I'm gonna put too many words in there. I'll shoot you the information. So that's another space that it's a maker space. So like there's a bar in there, there's a stage. You kind of can flip the space to be able to adjust to whatever type of art you have. There's a lot of visual arts there. We have a
Okay.
space in the basement where people rent out space. So just another place you might want to consider when you're looking for places to do exhibitions or to whatever. And I'll introduce you, give you the link, introduce you to the executive director whose name is Carly. But I think that you'll be a great fit for some of what happens there.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love that. We're technically we have a space where we're doing dinner with designers. So we want to do it now twice a year instead of just once a year. So we usually do it in October, like now it'll be like the fall edition, but now we're thinking of doing like a spring and a fall edition. So
Oh,
we're doing one in like April and then one in October. So tentatively we have a location for April for next year, but we're looking at a new location for October. So that could be a great space.
yeah, or even if you just want to showcase just your work, sometimes people will just come and say, "Hey, I'm going to do an exhibition, for instance," and they just will do that or screen something there. So again, it's just another resource in the community. That would be great
Yeah,
to connect you with. Yeah,
for sure. I love that. Yeah, shoot me all the info.
yeah, I definitely will. Yep.
All
All
right.
right. Well, have a good evening.
Dude,
Great
thank
talking with you.
you.
Thank you.